and you take a look at like 11, 19, 21, we kind of talked about those. Those are the ones where you had to be really careful with the rewrite. Meaning, when you were doing this equation in 21, and you'll see the same in your homework today, and you'll need to watch on the test when we take it, is that switching that inequality here so that when you're rewriting it in slope-intercept form, it should be a greater than instead of a less because you have an inequality, okay? So, looking at the questions, number 26. Let's take a look at 26, 27, 28. So 26, it says you have a lawn mowing job and you're going to take $12 an hour. You also have a job working in a store that pays you $10 an hour. One of the first things you might want to be thinking of is if we are looking at our graph, it's only going to be in the first quadrant, and we do have X and Y, and we need labels with it. So if we are looking at, this is our mowing hours, because we're talking about the hours, because we're getting paid $12 an hour. And then this would be our clothes hours. And one of the things, thank you, one of the things that I would suggest when you do like number 26 and you're putting it in your homework is that you tell me, oh, this is going to be the hours mowing. So when you finish solving, you can kind of see, oh, it makes sense that why I have this graph. And Y, in this case, was going to be our hours working at the clothing store. Okay? So it tells us we're getting paid $12 an hour and $10 an hour, and we need to earn at least $3.50. How can I write that equation? Anyone want to give it a shot for my standard form? Tanya.
12x plus ny is
Okay, greater or equal to 350. Does everyone agree with the greater or equal to 350? Okay, because the minimum we're earning is $3.50 that week. The next thing it tells us is that we can work no more than 35 hours. That means X plus, and if you don't have these done, you would be writing these down on your paper, doing them now because you didn't take the time to get them done before. X plus Y, and it says we can work no more than 35. Oh, and how am I going to put that?
greater than or equal to 35?
So if I can work no more, can I work 36?
Or less than?
Less than. So I'm going to have less or equal to 35. So I can work no more than. I could work 35, right? Okay. And then the next one says, well, you must work a minimum of 10 hours at the clothing store. So our clothing store hours, that's Y. So how can I write that last equation? What am I thinking, Samantha? Y is what?
Y is less than.
So minimum of 10. So can you work 9?
No.
No, have to work 10 or 11 or 12, right? So Y is going to be greater or equal to 10. So when I look at the graph of this one for 26, I need to have at 10, I know it's going to be above that, right? That's this equation. So I'm looking at these three equations, right? I have these three equations. And here's the mistake that I'll have students do. This equation you came up with, and then you try to put it in slope-intercept form. Don't do slope-intercept form. This is standard form. In standard form, what are the two things we know we can easily find? Find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, right? If I put in x is 0, 350 divided by 10 gives me 35, right? 0, 35 up here. If I put in y is 0, take 350 on your calculator and divide it by 12. 350 divided by 12. Becca, what did you end up with? 29.1. We'll go 29.1. Okay. So here this point, depending on how you set your scale, is at 0, 35, right? Over here, I'm at a point that's like at 29, 0. Okay? So if we knew for this one, it's a solid line, and it has to be greater or equal to that. So you'd have that straight line, and we're going above, right? Can't be below this line. Then we look at this equation, and we go, oh, x plus y is less or equal to 35. So in that equation, 0 with, if x is 0, what's y? X is 0 in this equation. What is y? 35. And if y is 0, what is x? 35. So this one has the same start point, but then it goes over further this way, right? So that's why we were working on this one this morning. This is the shaded region in between here. So it kind of looks, this one is what we are looking at. They both start at 35. And what they ask you to find in number 26 is what is the graph showing this for how many hours you could work. They didn't ask you to give examples of them, so you are simply leaving it like that as you look at that, okay? Number 27, I agree, it's kind of a hard one when you think about it. And you want to go to what is the question. And the question says, what is the graph showing how they can split their driving each day? So, a couple of things we know is that we know they have to go at least 500 miles a day. So when you start this out, you might want to be thinking, okay, what does X stand for? So when I was looking at this problem, I did X was my, and the reason I chose this is when I looked at that last statement, the friend that drives slower wants to drive fewer hours. So when I was looking at this one, I thought of X as being my slower driver. And we are really looking at the hours that the slower driver was. So the hours of the slower, which is the person going 55, right, miles per hour. And my Y I picked to be the hours of the faster driver, which is the person that was going 60 miles per hour. So when I look at the equations for 27, I want to start and say, okay, we want to drive at least 500 a day. How can I write that equation? Kind of standard form.
55x
Yep.
plus 60y is greater than 50.
Yes, greater or equal to the 500, okay? Next equation says they plan to spend no more than 10 hours driving a day, which means my hours from X and Y together, X plus Y, has to be less or equal to 10, right? No more than 10. I don't want to drive 11 hours. I want to drive 9 or 8 or 7 or 5 hours, right? Together, okay? And then the last one says, the friend who drives slower wants to drive fewer hours, which means my last equation, Y, has to be greater than X. Does that make sense? The slower one goes less. This one drives more hours. So, again, the easiest way to think of this problem is, what is my y-intercept and my x-intercept? What is my y-intercept and x-intercept? And it's even easier in this one, right? Because it's going to be 10, 0, 10, and 10, 0. And here you're going to take, when you plug in x is 0, this is going to be your 500 divided by 60. This is going to be your 500 divided by 55. Okay? Which gives us 500 divided by 60 gives us 0 and how much? 8.3. And 500 divided by 55 gives us 9.1 maybe, about. So when I look at my graph, I would definitely go up by ones. And as I'm looking at that graph, just so as you look at that, this is what they were looking at. So if we look at number 27, here was the 0, 10, right? Here was the 10, 0. It was, if we were looking at that, it had to be less than that. Here was my 8.0, 8.3. Here was the, so I want to make those 2 points and draw the line. And then this is, the y is greater than x, so it was this shaded region all the way between. Okay? Does that make a little better sense when you think about that question? 28. 28 was exactly like the example. So my question is, what is the question on 28? What do you not get? Because it was like yesterday's example, where you had to do, okay, the length is less, and you're looking at, oh, the length has to be at least 40, which means our length was, if it's at least 40, it had to be greater or equal, right, to 40. And then you're doing one with the width, and then you're doing the one with the perimeter, which is for the 150. And this is exactly like the length plus, we did that one yesterday. So look at that first, and if you still have a question like, I don't get how to do it, then I'll help you. 31. All right, so 31 with our gift certificates. As we are looking at that one, and then 32, let's look at 32 first. It says you're going to graph these. So if I'm looking at 32, and it says x is greater or equal to 2, Ryan, what kind of line am I looking at if x is greater or equal to 2?
A vertical line?
Vertical line. All right, so vertical line. And we would shade which direction?
So to the right.
To the right. Okay. Next one, Abby, we're looking at y being greater or equal to -3.
So you put a horizontal line on
Okay. And we're shading
above it.
above it. So far, we're not even going to shade over here because we know this is kind of our solution, right? So now I'm looking at this last one. And if I'm going to graph that last one, Joey, how do I need to rewrite it?
You would
Or how are you graphing?
subtract x, or you would find the y-intercepts.
Okay. So we're going to have what?
For the
Okay.
y-axis. And
So 0, 4.
0, 4, and 4, 0.
Here. 4, 0. And we are going to connect those with 1. And we are looking for the point of this part of intersection. So it says, describe the shape, should be a right triangle. Next part, find the vertices. Oh, that means I want to know where this point is, right here, right? It's over at 2 and up at, okay? So as you are looking at that one in number 32, you should be able, here's pictures a little better. Right triangle, tell me the vertices, and then the last thing you are asked to do is find the area. Well, how far across did this go if we are looking at going from this point over? And so if we are looking at that point of intersection, if we are looking at that, and our triangle should have been way bigger, my fault, came all the way down to here, right? It's this whole region. I was using the x-axis. This is our line right now. So when you are looking at that, you're looking at that point. These are your vertice points. So you have 5 units here and 5, and define area of a triangle. 1/2 base times height. 5 times 5. So you can see the answer for 31, and some of you might have seen that in the back when you were looking at that. So if we look at number 31, we want to write an equation for, we have to get t-shirts and dress shirts. We have to decide what is our X going to be and what is our Y. So if X is going to be t-shirts, then our Y might be our dress shirts. If we are looking at it, one equation is going to be in standard form using our gift card. 15x, right, plus 22y has to be less than our gift card, which is $100. Next one. What's another equation I can write from the information they're giving us? Someone want to give me another one from that next sentence that we want to write. You can spend no more than's on our gift certificate, so we can't spend more than $100. We want to leave $10. We want to leave at most $10. Do we want to leave $11? Or do we want to leave $9, $8, $7, $6, $1? Which one are we looking at? More or less than 10? How can I write it? So that this 15x plus 22y has to be what? Fine. Greater or equal to 90. Because you took 100 and minus 10 from it. Are you guys in agreement? 15x, 22y greater or equal 90. Seems like a pretty small window, right? So can we, if we're looking at these, so when we think about this at the at most 10 on it, we want that much left over, right? So we want, if we are thinking about this, we want our change, like when we're done. So, so when you look at this, I would just make sure, I don't know if writing another equation for this one is going to be as helpful for you as if we think about the last statement, which just says we need to have at least what? One dress shirt, right? Which means we have to have y being greater or equal to 1, correct? And all it says is what are some possibilities? So could we have only one dress shirt? If I get one dress shirt, if y is 1, okay, so I think of my ordered pair, this is my t-shirts and this is my dress. If I have one and I want to have left, so I put in 15x plus $22, right? And here I have less or equal to 100. Can I change this to just be less or equal to 90? Does that make sense? Can I do that? Can I say that I want to say have at least $10 and what are the possibilities? And so that now when I do this and I solve and I can subtract 22 from both sides, and I say 15x is less or equal to 68. And if I divide by 15, x comes out to equal what? 68 divided by 15, it's going to be a decimal, right? What'd you end up with? 4.5, okay? So, they said I can buy 5 shirts and 1 dress shirt because if we are looking at this, if I have 15 and then I can check and go, oh, 15 times 5 gives us how much? 15 times 5 gives us $75 plus 22. Have we overspent our gift card? No. So we can buy 5 shirts and 1 dress shirt. If I don't want to do that and I want to up my dress shirts, right? So then I might go, oh, what if I get 2 dress shirts, right? So if I have 2 dress shirts, right? If D is 2, I'm spending $44, right? And so I might put in 100 minus 44, if I'm thinking about that equation. And if I have 100 minus 44, right? And I'm thinking of that in relation, I have this 15x, and it now knows that has to be less or equal to 56. And how many times could 15 go into 56? less or equal to 15, 56, 3. So if I have 3 and 2, does that work also? So what they just wanted you to do is to think of those combinations, and that you still want to have change coming back is what they were looking at. The last, and so as you were looking, also I put up the answers, but what I want to look at right now is your worksheet that I handed back to you, and I want to look at number 4 and 10 from yesterday. And so 29 was kind of the opposite of number 11's graph, right? Number 11 was kind of like this, but it was shaded in between the two, and this was just to kind of show you that there's a possibility of no solution when we do this, okay? So I was looking at your D6 that we turned in yesterday. And in the D6 worksheet, the questions that came up the most was question number 4 and 10. And in number 4, someone want to read number 4 for us? Someone want to volunteer from the worksheet yesterday, the D6, so you have that out before I volunteer someone. Samantha, will you please read it?
Colin took a boat trip 120 kilometers upstream that lasted 5 hours. The return trip lasted 4 hours. Find the speed of the boat and the current.
So, then keep reading. What does it say?
You need to calculate the speed in each direction, kilometers to hours.
So kilometers per hour first. You cannot do the airplane and the boat questions with the current or with the speed of the wind unless you know how many miles per hour or kilometers per hour you're going. So on the way upstream, it took us 5 hours. So you're going to take in number 4, 120 and divide it by 5. 120 divided by 5 comes out to be 24 kilometers per hour. That is when we take our boat and we minus the current, right? We're going against it. Boat minus the current equals 24. When we went downstream, it didn't take us as long, right, with the current. It only took us 4 hours. 120 divided by 4 is, our speed is 30 miles per hour. So the boat plus the current is now 30. And you added it to b equals 54, and you divide. I do need, when you do these problems, to see the equation. Part of our linear system is being able to write it, not just being able to think what it is, but write it. Yeah.
Mr. Wilson taught me that kilometers are not the same as miles per hour.
No, they're not. It's a different speed.
But it's in kilometers per hour, so why'd you write miles per hour?
That should be a kilometer. Just a miswrite. They are different. I agree. So, you should be able to find the boat, and you should be able to find the current, because you know that these two, subtracting gives us 24, and adding them gives us 30, okay? When you look at question 10, so Joey, go ahead and read number 10 that we're looking at.
Number 10. A plane leaves Chicago and flies 750 miles to New York. It takes 2.5 hours to get to New York flying against the wind, but only 2 hours to fly back to Chicago. What is the plane's rate of speed and what is the wind speed?
So we need to find first the 750, and it took us the first time 2.5. So please put on your paper 750 divided by 2.5, and in this one we will have miles per hour for that. Then you're going to take 750 miles and you're dividing it on the way back. It only took us to 2 hours. Miles per hour. For the first one, divided by 2.5, we should come up with 300 miles per hour. That was going with our airplane going against the wind, right? Is 300. With the wind, 750 divided by 2 gave us 375. you need to know miles per hour before you can solve these problems. So that was their hint, but a lot of you kind of didn't like, oh, that's what that means of finding it. So I wanted to make sure from that D6 that that was kind of clear. I'm going to hand out your